Work travel wears you down. The hotels all blend together, same beige walls, same anonymous feeling, but this one was different. I was in the bathroom, washing up after a long day, when I saw something in the mirror. A dark figure standing in the doorway behind me. I spun around, heart hammering. Nothing. The room was empty. I laughed it off, told myself it was just stress. But when I turned back to the sink, my reflection was gone. The mirror was just a dark, empty void. The light flickered, and for a split second, it returned. I spent the rest of the night jumpy, but told myself it was nothing. The next night, I tested it. I stood in front of the mirror, and my reflection started to lag. Just a fraction of a second behind my movements. And then, it smiled at me, while my own face stayed frozen in horror. I checked out early the next morning. Now, weeks later, I still catch myself checking mirrors. Sometimes, when I move too fast, I swear my reflection can't quite keep up. And sometimes I see it smile, just before I do. The sound that woke me up wasn't a knock. It was the unmistakable click of a door unlocking from the outside. I was staying at a budget hotel off the interstate, the kind you pick because it's cheap and you don't plan on remembering it. I was driving cross-country for work, exhausted, and just needed a bed. The lobby smelled faintly of disinfectant and old carpet. The clerk barely looked up when I checked in, just slid a plastic keycard across the counter and muttered, "Third floor," before turning back to his screen. My room was at the very end of a long, quiet hallway. The carpet was threadbare, patterned with stains no amount of cleaning could ever hide. I remember thinking how unusually cold the hallway felt, even compared to the rest of the hotel. When I got to my door, I tapped the keycard, heard the beep, and went inside. The room itself was what you'd expect. A single bed, a small TV bolted to the dresser, and yellowed curtains over a window that faced the parking lot. I locked the door behind me out of habit, flipped the deadbolt, and collapsed onto the bed, fully clothed. And that's when I first heard it. A sharp electronic beep. Then the soft, mechanical whir of the lock disengaging. I sat straight up, my heart pounding, just staring at the door. The handle didn't move. The deadbolt was still in place. After a few seconds, everything went silent again. I told myself it was probably just someone in the wrong room, or a glitchy lock system. Still, I double-checked the door, pulling on it until I was sure it was secure. Eventually, exhaustion pulled me back under. The second time was worse. I woke up to the same beep, but this time the door handle actually rattled. Not violently, just enough to let me know someone was on the other side, trying to get in. I froze. My entire body went cold, and I remember holding my breath, just listening. Whoever it was didn't knock or speak. They just stood there, testing the handle once, twice, before stopping. I waited a full minute before I crept out of bed and peered through the peephole. The hallway was empty. No footsteps, no voices. Just the hum of the lights, and that same unnatural cold pressing in from under the door. The next morning, I went down to the front desk and told the clerk what happened. He frowned, typed something into his computer, and said it was probably another guest confusing rooms. I asked if he could reprogram my keycard, just in case. He paused. Then he asked me, "What room are you in?" I told him. His fingers stopped moving. "That's not, hang on," he said, leaning closer to the screen. He typed again, slower this time, then just shook his head. "Sir, that room number isn't in our system." I laughed nervously, assuming he was joking. He wasn't. "There's no record of that room," he said. "The third floor ends before that." My stomach dropped. I told him I had slept there all night. He called over another employee, and they both checked. Same result. According to their system, the room I was staying in didn't exist. They offered to move me to another room immediately. I agreed without hesitation. Before I left, I went back upstairs to grab my things. The third floor hallway looked the same as before, but as I walked toward the end, I noticed something I hadn't the night before. My room door had no number. Every other door had a small metal plaque bolted above the handle. Mine was just blank, as if the number had been removed. I didn't sleep much that night in the new room. Every sound made me tense, but nothing happened. The next morning, I checked out early. As I was loading my car, I glanced up at the third floor windows. I couldn't tell which one had been my original room, but one of them was darker than the rest, like the curtains had been permanently drawn. Curiosity got the better of me. Before leaving, I asked the day clerk about the third floor. She looked confused. "We don't rent rooms on that end," she said. "Not anymore." When I asked why, she hesitated before saying, "There was an incident years ago. A guest died in one of those rooms. After that, we sealed them off." I asked how someone could check into a sealed room. She didn't answer. She just looked at me, then at the keycard in my hand. "That's strange," she said quietly. "We don't use those cards for that floor." I left the hotel feeling unsettled but relieved to be gone. A week later, I was sorting through my wallet and found the old keycard still tucked behind my license. Out of habit, I turned it over, expecting to see a room number written in marker. There was nothing there, just a faint scratch across the plastic, like something sharp had tried again and again to carve a number that never quite stayed. Thanks for listening. If you have a story you'd like to share, let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more. The knock came at 3:17 a.m. on the dot. 3 slow taps, perfectly spaced. By the third night, it wasn't the sound that terrified me anymore. It was the certainty that it was waiting for me to answer. I was staying alone at a mid-range hotel near the airport, attending a week-long work training. It was the kind of place you'd expect families to stay between flights. Nothing fancy, nothing sketchy. Just beige walls, muted carpets, and soft instrumental music in the lobby. My first night, I fell asleep almost instantly. Sometime in the dead of night, I was pulled out of a dream by a knock at my door. 3knocks.com. Polite, half asleep. I glanced at my phone. 3:17 a.m. Housekeeping. A woman's voice called softly from the other side. I remember feeling more annoyed than scared. Who does housekeeping in the middle of the night? I didn't answer. I just rolled over, assuming it was a mistake or someone at the wrong door. After a few seconds, I heard a cart roll away down the hallway, its metal wheels rattling faintly. Then, silence. The next morning, while grabbing coffee, I mentioned it to the front desk clerk. "That's strange," she said. "Housekeeping doesn't start until 9. I just shrugged it off. Airports run on weird schedules. Maybe night staff cleaned vacant rooms. The second night, I was awake when it happened. I was just scrolling on my phone when the knock came 3 taps. Same rhythm. I froze. Las 3:17 alto m. Housekeeping? The same soft voice said close to the door. I sat up in bed, my heart starting to race. I didn't respond. I didn't move. The knock came again, a little firmer this time. I held my breath, listening. There was no cart this time. No footsteps, just the faint hum of the air conditioner and the blood pounding in my ears. Eventually, whoever it was just left. The next morning, I went straight to the front desk. This time, the clerk didn't brush it off. She called a supervisor, who listened carefully as I explained. "There's no housekeeping staff on duty at night," she said firmly. "Not even on call." I asked if anyone else had reported it. She hesitated before saying no. They offered to move me to another room, but I declined. I didn't want to seem dramatic. I told myself there had to be a rational explanation. Still, I pushed a chair under the door handle before going to bed that night. I didn't sleep. At 3:16 a.m., I was wide awake, just staring at the door. When the knock came, it was louder. 3 knocks. Slower, more deliberate. "Housekeeping?" the voice said again. But something about it was wrong. The tone was flatter, almost rehearsed, like someone repeating a word they didn't fully understand. I crept out of bed and leaned toward the door. "You have the wrong room," I said, trying to sound steady. There was a long silence. Then, very quietly, the voice replied, "I know." My stomach dropped. I couldn't move. After a long moment, I heard footsteps retreating down the hall, slow, uneven, dragging slightly. The next morning, I demanded to be moved. The supervisor apologized and reassigned me to a room on a different floor, closer to the elevator. She assured me it wouldn't happen again. That night, I double-locked the door, wedged the chair back in place, and slept with the TV on. At 3:17 a.m., the knock came anyway. Not at the door, at the wall behind my bed. 3 taps, directly through the drywall. I shot upright, scrambling away from the headboard. The tapping came again, closer this time, followed by a whisper so faint I almost convinced myself I imagined it. "Housekeeping." I didn't stay. I grabbed my bag and went straight to the lobby, shaking, with tears streaming down my face. The night clerk stared at me like I was crazy. He checked the system, then frowned. "Ma'am," he said slowly, "the room you were just moved into. It shares a wall with an old service corridor. It's been sealed off for years." I asked why. He hesitated. "An employee used to work nights. She passed away on shift. They say guests complained about knocking after that. I checked out first thing in the morning and booked a room across town." Weeks later, after I'd almost convinced myself it was all just stress, I noticed something while unpacking my suitcase. Tucked into a side pocket was a small, white card I didn't recognize. It read, in neat printed letters, "Housekeeping, do not disturb." And beneath it, written in pen, was a time, Las 3:17 alto m.